Sorry to keep you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mine moved on. Yes, I think like a lot of you only just got an invite to join. So the agenda is in front of us all, presumably.
Yep.
Are there any apologies for absence? Steve?
Yes, Gareth called earlier to say he has to do something for his daughter, so he can't attend.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, any declarations of interest? I mean, it's a bit of a funny one, this, isn't it? We've all got interests, I know, but it's any personal or pecuniary interest in any of the items we're going to discuss, which include, obviously, reports, projects currently under consideration. Okay, minutes of the last meeting have been distributed. I think the day after I got mine. So there's quite a lot of action points in these. So if we first of all go through the actual accuracy of the minutes. So page 1. People happy with that? Page 2, which is a lot of action points.
There's 1 point of accuracy on the second page.
Yeah.
That should be that I was excluded from the meeting. That should be recorded.
Okay.
On the.
Where would that go, Steve?
Yeah, sorry about that. Obviously, when I wrote the minutes, I wasn't aware that that was the case. So we'll amend those minutes now to reflect that.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, everyone happy with those, with that inclusion amendment as accurately reflecting the meeting of the 27th, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, we've got a lot of action points now. And the first one was Steve to circulate Ben's notes, which he did, I think, on the 27th. So that was the notes that Ben provided following his meeting with those who were able to attend the initial, I think he had a term for it, induction meeting, didn't he? So they have been circulated for us to consider when we consider what to do with the Ostream. Can I say one, just add a few points which are relevant to that. We did postpone this meeting because we hoped that Ben would have come out with some more ideas on his placement proposals, such as he's doing West Cross. Unfortunately, we got an email from him dated the 30th, Tim and Steve. Hi, I've got COVID, so I'm wiped out and I'm presently completely off work. Work has been completing with Claire. She's sent a quick questionnaire for you. So that's for, I think, is that for all the councillors, Steve, or for those on premises? All the councillors, I would say.
All councillors.
Yeah, that's been circulated now, Tim.
Yeah.
Yes, and she would like that back by midnight on the 7th of December. It's only 7 simple questions. So that's in relation to Ben and his ability to progress the initial ideas for how the stream might develop in accord with people's wishes and desires. Right, next action point was about the intermediate payments to the stream. We are indeed, as Steve has recently said, be paying a lot of money. Is it 900 a month, Steve? Sorry, you just sent me this.
It's 800 a month, Chair. Yeah.
And we're paying that now. We did pay a lot of that because it was the loss of income they had from the minor rube, which they put at 600 odd pounds. I think obviously we need to get in negotiations with them that it's not really fair to charge us that when there is no income because it's not being used due to COVID. And at the same time, the initial rent we're getting from them of 7,000 That was agreed to be left in the first year at that, and during that first year we would discuss with them means of increasing income and therefore increasing the rent to near the market value which had been quoted to us. Unfortunately, COVID has put that into abeyance, so obviously I welcome to people's thoughts on that, but just going to that third action point, the actual start date of the lease, which we were all confused by last time. It was signed this September, but it did start in September 2019. So technically, Steve, perhaps if you could advise us, that means that the period of rent for which we said it would remain at £7,000 for 1 year has expired.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but that sounds a reasonable argument, doesn't it? Yeah.
Hmm. Have we any idea, those of you who are on the management committee, what they're planning to do about use? They're not able to have any use at the moment, I presume.
Could I just comment? I think that they're quite keen to get a lease, as and renegotiate a lease as soon as possible. So the only thing that's really holding them up is they were gonna. I don't know if you've heard any more, Steve, but last time we met with them, they were seeking legal advice on what sort of lease that they would ideally like, and then they were going to come back to us, and we were going to debate that really. So I'm not sure if they've come back to us, Steve, have they?
We've had no form, unless it's gone to Paul directly, which I don't think it has. We've had no formal response, no.
So I suppose we need to chase that up really and just say, look, have you spoken to your solicitors and lawyers or whoever, and could you come back to us? Maybe we'll give a deadline or something to focus the mind.
Yeah, thanks, Will. I mean, all I feel is I feel a bit uncomfortable about it because we're operating in a situation entirely out with our control, as they say, and they're not able to do very much. So, but I don't think it's fair that we keep paying £800 a month when a large proportion of that was for their loss of income. So I think we could negotiate that with them. Maybe we look at if things get back to normal from hopefully next March, April, then we would then look at negotiating the rent with them. But at the moment, we try and get the 800 we're paying them reduced, because in fact we're there. We've got some of our staff there, Claire and Maddie, for 3 hours.
There's 9 hours a week at the moment, 3 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Whereas where before it was virtually we were paying for having total occupancy of it, weren't we?
Yes.
So shall we ask for a pro rata reduction in that? Is that something you could draft a letter, Steve, and you need for me to decide, or we speak to Elaine about it and then she speaks to her chair? Do people think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
It would have to be a proposition to full council, chair.
Yeah.
So this
Okay, so our
It's a proposal.
would be that we, given the fact that our use of the minor hall, which we originally envisaged we were occupying full time, has now been reduced to 9 hours a week, and the loss of income, although they're still suffering from a loss of income, the loss of income isn't due to us using that facility. So the fact that they're still paying a rent which is below the accepted market rent, that we would reduce what we're paying them. And we ask full council if you could turn that into some suitably concise words.
Okay, Chair. Yeah.
We're going to put a time limit on it, Tim, or try and get them to ask them politely to respond within 31 days or something?
I suppose, shall we give them some time after the Christmas period? So shall we say kind of second Friday in January, whenever that would be? Reasonable?
Chair, have you got an idea of what is a suitable amount that we should be offering to pay?
Well, we're reducing, say we occupied it for 40 hours before, say 5 days of 8 hours. We're down to a quarter of that, aren't we, really? Or slightly less than a quarter. I mean, so I suppose we should maybe offer a quarter of that amount.
It's not like they can hire it though, is it? Because all our stuff's in there. you know.
No,
So
but the reason we agreed that sum in the first place is because it was what Elaine showed me their bookings, and it was a loss of income. And we did agree that in negotiations with them and agree it through full council. Things have just been put totally awry because of COVID. What do you think then? Half it,
Oh,
Sarah?
I-
Yes. Can't.
Yes, definitely half it. That's
Half.
fair.
Okay, we all happy? We think that's reasonable, Pip?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
Carrie?
I think it should be less than that. We've been paying them £800 a month for 8 months while they've been shut and incurring, you know, we're not depriving them of any rental whatsoever. And I just think, you know, we are the leaseholders of the building, and yet we're paying we're actually now paying more for that room than we used to pay for the whole of the Walters Road room, which, you know,
Right,
at least had more space. So, you know, I think it's ridiculous that we're carrying on.
What amount would
Even
you?
£4 a month, I think, is ridiculous.
Right. What about would you think is reasonable then?
Well, I would think, you know, as you said, a quarter, £200 is more than sufficient.
Right.
You know, that'll cover
Shall I
the lighting. That's really realistically all that they can say that is a cost to them.
Right, Will, you've got to make a follow-up point, just one follow-up point, please. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, of course, yeah. You know, at the end of the day, we are still using the room. It is a room in the centre of Mumbles, right? Which we are still using, and they can't rent to anyone else. It's not like if we weren't using it, obviously we could renegotiate this. But you know, for us to just pull numbers out of the air is quite unprofessional. I think if we really want to do it properly, we should be getting advice off our, you know, estate agents and say, look, this is the situation. What do you think we should be paying? You know, us sitting around here pulling numbers out of the sky is not very professional.
Well, it's a very difficult situation. Martin, what was your opinion?
I was just going to say on this, you know, a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, because yes, okay, we're not using the room physically, but we are storing stuff in there. So, you know, we have got occupancy of that room. So, you know, the fact that we're not actually in there, I think we've got to bear that in mind, really, because, you know, we have got a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of boxes in there. There's a lot of the gardening equipment in there and stuff like that. So it's, and you know, also they can't use it as well. Anyway, that's my point of view.
3 hands up. Steve was first, I think, then Carrie, then Sarah.
Yeah, Chair, bearing in mind what Martin said, one approach to being, and what Will said about being professional about it, obviously we've had a valuation of the Ostream recently in the sense that the whole of the Ostream has been valued at £15,000 a year, hasn't it? That's part, that figure has been done professionally as a result of our negotiation contracts with them. So if we worked out what the square footage was of that room compared with the rest of the Austrian building, then a pro rata based on that square footage would be a reasonable sum to offer, wouldn't it?
Well, I've got the plan here, actually, and, you know, I doubt if that would even make 200.
Which is what we should be looking at. I think Steve's absolutely right. You know, the total value of the building is 15,000, and therefore what we're paying should be proportionate.
Yeah, I mean, we did make that point and they accepted it, you know, over a year ago. But obviously, the changes without outside anyone's control have been so drastic. I wouldn't want to hit them as hard as we can. Sarah, you wanted to make.
I was just going to point out that they have rather had the full rent backdated. You know, if we look at how long we've been paying them since, was it March when the last time we had a meeting there? And we've been paying the 800 each month. Yeah. 200 is fair if you look at that as well. Just until we're back in the room again.
You can't even get a garage in Mumbles for 200 quid.
Well, do we then look at...
Yeah, but we've been paying 800, well, for the last so many months. So we should get some kudos for that.
Why, Steve, could I suggest that perhaps you and I have a meeting or a Zoom meeting with Elaine and discuss these issues, because the other thing we're going to say is we could say, well, we can't any longer charge you 7,000. In fact, the £800 income you're getting off that ourselves, if you do that times 12, that's what 12 eighths, that's 9,600. So you know we're more than covering the rest. We need to get some compromise rather than going in with suggestions. Why don't we have a chat around figures? Hope they'll be reasonable and think and hope we can report back with some compromise. Does that seem perhaps the best? Otherwise, we can be all night discussing.
Chair, that seems very reasonable. But can I just put the point of view of the public looking in? We used to have a perfectly usable hall that we were paying, I think it was 6,000 a year for. Ostream is now costing us 17,600 a year.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to bear that. I think that's a point that you could relay to Elaine.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm going away Friday, as you know, up to see my partner in North Wales. I'm probably not back till Thursday. Perhaps if we could arrange a meeting with Elaine for very early the following week. Steve,
Yeah.
the 7,600 is including what, apart from the rent, then amount we've allowed for maintenance, and we're not paying gas and electric, are we? That's in the 800 we pay them.
At the moment, I think it is. I think what I gave you was Paul's sort of costs for next year, assuming we're paying it, but that's just on that assumption, yeah.
Yeah, but we're not actually paying that amount now, in fairness to.
No.
We're paying £15,000 a year to the church.
That's right. That's where the figure I got for the. Sorry, Karen.
On top of which, we're paying another £800 a month for the building, which we're already paying for.
Yeah, just to interrupt.
Yes, I think we've got quite a strong case to argue, haven't we? Can I then propose, if you're all happy, that Steve arranges a meeting first of all with Elaine, myself, and Steve to consider these issues in the circumstances that we find ourselves, and the fact that obviously we're considerably overpaying at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, could I just suggest that as we have got an Ostream working group, that a member of that should be at that meeting as well?
Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Right, have you got, is that enough for you to do a recommendation for full council, Steve? Yeah.
Well, at this stage, we won't. I was just going to say.
Won't need to. We're just information. It will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. Turning the page to action. You were going to check with Elaine about. Was it what? It was the builder who's a cousin of Tonya Antonio. So he offered to repair the wall, didn't he, free of charge?
Yeah, I did pass that on. I've not had a response, but I've not chased Elaine. I'm not sure whether she's still in furlough. I know her position keeps changing depending on lockdown.
Well, when I ring there, you get a message to leave and assume that she phones in every so often and they could ring back.
Yeah, I emailed her. I emailed you.
All right, okay. Okay. What's Stuart back up? Is he still do with things there? I've got his mobile.
He is, yes.
Well, do you want to, if you send me the email you sent to Elaine, and I'll say we're not sure of her position refurlough, are you able to help out? I'll put that as an action point then.
Yeah.
Right. Chair and Clerk tried to have a cost red line items. Well, I have been going through the very detailed report from KPA. The only thing they came up with a red line on that 36-page report was something which we've already done. They did this in December 2018. We got the report, and that was showing that the roof trusses were making the walls bend and the windows crack. And so between the three of ourselves, the church, ourselves, and in fairness, the Austrian Management Association, that has been done. So there were no other red lines on it. They have made the point that there's lots of their conclusion, which I wanted to read you. They've taken pictures of lots of minor cracks and produced, say, if they're over a certain width, you know, they need dealing with more than others. but their conclusion is, with the exception of the large hall timber truss roof and supporting walls, generally we find the property to be in reasonably condition for its age, and it appears to have been well maintained. There are, however, some minor repairs which are now required. Well, of course, we accept that. That would be the same with any building, and this is a very thorough report. What it is a lot of those are in rooms like there's a store for furniture, for cleaners and various things like that, which we may look at reconfiguring. Well, we will be looking at reconfiguring the building in line with Ben's placement, sense of place consultation, and what we as councillors would give as a brief to architects. So I don't think it's worth at this stage spending money on cracks. People happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. The only other action on this was Steve to chase Maverick for costs for skate park business plan. I have got a document you sent me, Steve, which Carrie had been involved. Had you been involved in getting that, Carrie?
The business plan, yes, I wrote it
All right. Okay.
with some input from Pip. Pip did some work on it as well.
All right. So the ongoing costs per annum, the maintenance costs, I couldn't see a clear figure on it on that page 16.
Well, it is there.
It's got a lot of figures like that, but it hasn't got a total at the bottom. You had it mentioned MCC committed to a contingency fund of 12,689.
Yep.
Gap of funding of 1,257 and then 7,000 in year one. It's got a one-off contingency fund for parking issues.
Yes, that was a recommendation from Swansea Council, because if there are any parking issues that require things like double yellow lines or something of similar being,
right.
that we would be expected to pay for it. So they recommended that we put that in the first year to address that. So that
Right.
is a request.
So this thing about Maverick for cost is not entirely accurate then in the action points.
Yes, it was at the time,
All right.
because that was to do with the SUDs.
Right. Okay. So, and you're optimistic of covering most of these costs with sponsorship?
Quite a lot of it, yeah.
Want to give us any info on that? Not the actual people, but
No, not at this moment, because, you know, it's really not relevant until we actually know when it's going to be built. But Pip has already started doing some work with people on sponsorship.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got some. Sorry, Tim. We've got somebody who's keen to join us in sponsorship. We've already had 2 meetings with them, Pam, Carrie, and we got Paul Thorburn along as well to see what he could do to help as well. He does quite a fair bit of fundraising and so on. But we have got one company quite serious to back it. Hopefully on an annual basis, you know, for maybe a 5-year deal or something.
Good. Well, thanks for that, Pip. I'm sure you're very effective at doing it. And, you know, again, we're going to be, the situation is out of our control somewhat, isn't it? But I would think it's a good sponsorship opportunity with a high quality facility and the number of young people who like to use it, and hopefully some events there, you know, of international standing. But until, as Carrie says, until we know when it's going to be built or whatever, there's not a lot that can be done. Okay, so that's all the action points. So going back to the agenda, item 5 is appointment to the JEC. I mean, I'm in 2 minds about this. You all know my opinions about our committee structure. The last council, we did agree that Paul Egan would look at our committee structure. And I feel that the JEC is duplicating what the full council does in a way, that the full council is a sacrosanct body. So do we have a need to appoint anyone?
Well, if we respond to the way that the committee structure is at the moment, and if we don't appoint to the committee, we're preempting any recommendation before it comes in.
And it means that obviously you don't have anyone who's actually bringing forward any requests
To the JEC.
from premises to JEC. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
But why do we need to
I mean,
bring a?
obviously there are some of us who are already on JEC anyway.
Yeah.
Don't we put a request to the full council? Isn't that the way? Why do we need an intermediary as the JEC?
Well, because if you want to get any marketing or consultations or leaflets or publicity, those budgets are held by JEC. So the logical thing to do is to ask them to do it for you. You know, so they manage all the social media and the website.
And also that is the way that the council is structured at the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Every committee's got to put someone forward, haven't they? And we're a committee, so we've got to put someone on it. So
Exactly.
Well, you don't have to, but as I say, if you don't, then it's you know, this particular committee has less representation than all the others.
Right. Okay. Would you like to do it, Will? Anyone else?
Is Ian? Are you on JC?
Is anyone who's not on JC who would like to do it?
I was going to say I'm already on it, so so a couple of
Can you
us.
represent us on it then?
Yes,
Yeah, that's sensible.
Yeah,
I can do that. Yes.
Thanks, Pip. Good man. Okay.
Did Ian want to do it though, Chair? Just to check.
Yes.
I
yeah.
bit
Sorry,
pressed for time, but
no, thank you.
there we are.
Okay,
Perfect.
good.
Thanks, Pep.
That's easy resolved. Thank you. Right. I don't know about this item. So was this proposed and seconded, Chair? Sorry, Clerk. Where's this come from? Steve?
I recall it's from the Environmental Committee because they're looking for a premises to store potential e-cargo bike.
Right. But that the whole idea for the e-cargo bikes hasn't yet been approved by full council or have any dates of being implemented, does it? So is it a bit premature to look at it here
No,
yet?
it's not a bit premature because there's no point in us getting it approved by full council until we know that we've got somewhere to store it.
Well, what? Can I come in?
Yes, Martin. Yeah.
So, what are we looking for from this committee?
Right, we have two possible ideas, one of which Steve suggested, which was that possibly we could approach the police station and ask if it may be that some of their dead land, of which they've got quite a bit around the police station, they would be happy for us to site a storage unit on. I did send the link with the email I sent out to everyone showing you the type of unit that we would be looking at.
Yeah.
The other alternative, which was the original idea, is that we actually use, where Elaine's, the door into Elaine's office is, and there's a space at the back there, that we actually locate it there.
Seemed
So
very large
just,
there. It seemed large to be able to fit in there. So there's a very small gap, isn't it, between the wall and her office?
Well, it's sufficient. There's enough for that unit to fit in. It's big enough.
I'm sure if it's passed by full council, we can come up with a location.
Well, I'd rather be able to put it to full
backward to me.
council. You know, that, I mean, if you want, I can just take the proposal straight to full council that we locate it at the Ostream. But I thought, as you are premises and dealing with the Ostream, you might want to have a view on it first.
Yeah, well, we have got a view that we're not against anything at the moment, but you know, it might at the moment you know, where you've just said about we're not looking at income from the skate park or sponsorship because it hasn't yet been built or started. Isn't this exactly the same situation?
No, I'm asking for an in-principle agreement that if this goes ahead, because there's no point in us actually purchasing a bike or a storage unit until we know that we've got somewhere to put it.
Yeah, I didn't think though that the e-bike, you know, the points Rob Marshall made about are they going to use it, and you know, when a van could deliver 10 deliveries, it would be 10 trips on the bike. I didn't think that was something that the council had said was likely to go ahead anytime soon.
But they didn't say it wasn't likely to go ahead anytime soon either. The full proposal is obviously being put in as part of the budget proposal, and it's for full council to discuss it at that point, rather than because one individual councillor says that they don't think it's a good idea.
Well, there was quite a lot of support for that. Martin, you've spoken a lot about it now, so you've had your 5 minutes worth and better. Martin, you had a point then, Sarah.
Okay, I was just going to say, I suppose I've got no problem in principle that, you know, if this goes ahead at full council, then I think, you know, we've got to commit then, obviously, to storing this somewhere. But, you know, again, as Carrie has already said, if we're considering the police station option and the land they've got around there, well, again, you know, it's like how long is a piece of string, because we don't know what the feedback would be from the police in relation to that. So in some ways, I think, you know, maybe in principle, yeah, we can say, you know, if this goes ahead, yes, obviously we're going to have to commit to the premises, putting it somewhere. But I honestly don't think at this particular juncture that we can commit to one thing or the other, because we just don't know.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Rounding up now.
I think we just need to say in principle we agree with that. It's by the Ostream. It's a well thought of idea. It's been used in other places in Britain. It was on the BBC News the other week. I nearly phoned you, Carrie, and I realised what a ridiculous type of morning it was. So it would be a positive thing to get behind.
Ian, you want to make final point on this, and I'm going to round up and we'll put it to a vote.
Yeah, I think it's actually premature myself. I don't even see why we should be discussing it at the moment. Are we going to be discussing the salary of the person that's going to be riding the bike?
I don't think that's anything to do with premises.
What about the clothing for the person that's going to be riding the bike? The insurance for the bike?
To the point, which is
are we talking? Will you stop interrupting me? I haven't interrupted you, so you just be quiet, please. Thank you. Have you considered that this object or this building or this box, does it require planning? Have you considered that?
No, it wasn't.
Have you considered that the observations that might come in from those that reside in Castle Avenue, who are very sensitive to certain things being outside the Ostream? Have you looked for any feedback on that?
I think all these points here are good ones, and what I would say, this is something that's obviously going to be very robustly debated in full council about whether this is a project that MCC will be proceeding with in the near future. It's not for us as a premises committee to cover that. So there is no harm in stating that if this is approved by the full council, and that's obviously going to be an interesting debate, then obviously in principle we're happy that we will have to find somewhere for the bike to be kept and maintained. Is that suitable, Steve, in terms of an outcome from this agenda item?
Just to challenge that, Chair, what would this committee have thought if premises environmental committee had made lots of inquiries about premises without involving you? Would you think that would be rude to the committee?
Well, obviously our terms of reference are clear, and we have now they've been approved by full council. So yes, they do clearly state that all negotiations to do with leasing or or purchasing premises either for ourselves or for the community's use could come through this committee, yes. So when it's approved if it's approved in principle, obviously this committee, I presume, then will be tasked with looking at a suitable location.
Sorry, Chair, just to challenge you further, because I would challenge council about this. When you're discussing the proposal in council as a council, and the proposal came out without any idea where storage would be, I would be advising council you haven't got sufficient information to make a decision. So it's a little bit chicken and egg.
Have you a solution then?
I suggest that you instruct me to write to the police station, write to the Ostream, and the committee think about any suitable alternative sites.
With a picture of the green, well, it doesn't have to be green, but the porter cabin that Carrie has distributed.
Well, if the committee are happy with that, they might think it's ugly and want to do something else.
Can I ask? Yes, I mean, right. None of these things are ever as simple as one might hope, are they? So, do we want to think that perhaps can we state that if this is approved by full council, then the premises committee will immediately embark on suitable premises and design of premises to store the electric bike? Well, that covers all eventualities, I believe. Yes?
No, it doesn't.
What doesn't it
Because
cover?
obviously, we want to know before it goes to full council, as Steve has just pointed out, that this has already been considered. What Steve has suggested seems eminently sensible, that we instruct him to contact the police station, contact the Ostream, and discuss the possibility of those locations to be a suitable site for this bike store.
Well, that would mean that they might well then be asking, well, what's it going to look like? Because the points he made about
Yes.
it's a bit of residential, so we can't, obviously that isn't it's not an attractive thing, that porter cabin, is it?
It could be decorated very nicely.
Is it just for overnight storage?
Yeah.
All right. What about Underhill, where the council have?
It needs to have obviously charging points. It needs to have space for the driver's wet gear to be dried. It needs to have somewhere for tools to be kept for minor maintenance on the bike, and also for the panniers and the various other things that the bike would need in order to do its job.
Yeah, the Swansea Council have obviously got a store up Underhill, and there's another one down by the Bowls Green. I mean, have you looked into those? I mean, might be worth also following that up.
Well, I was rather thinking it would be sensibly that we actually looked at our own storage potential first. And and we can be sure that it's secure, and also it would obviously require power and it would require water, because you can't have an electric bike unless you can charge it up.
Just have a look at them, because it would mean you don't have to buy a shelter. Just bear it in mind is all I'm saying.
I would say, though, in terms of the management of this facility and its use, presumably mainly by the shops in Newton Road and adjoining, it needs to be perhaps a bit more central than Underhill Park. I have to say, I've had some not promising news from Chloe, whatever her name is, who Mark Thomas of chair of highways related issues.
It is Chloe Lewis, I think, Chair.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Starting points that they proposed that we were looking into, that we thought originally that we might have to pay 25% of the costs, and the guidance was that they would cost 7,500. She sent me an email, which I will distribute to members of the Economic Wellbeing Committee, saying that the costs they got from the generating board for the car park in Oystermouth or the Quarry Park was 34,000 for two. So these charging points is going to be expensive. Listen, guys, we could spend forever discussing this. I think if we it struck Steve as an action point to contact the police station and the stream, as suggested, about, there's nothing wrong with asking about the bowling green is quite central. And as you say, there's that green corrugated iron hut that was used as a kind of over 60s club, wasn't it, which isn't used anymore. So if you write and ask for the likely response or how they would consider such a use, again, I think they're going to want to know something about the dimensions and how it would look, but I'll leave that to your expertise, Steve, to cover in the letter. Sarah, one last point there.
Tim, just a concern is, are they going to charge us? So if we did go with our stream or the bowling green, we could end up paying a ludicrous amount of rent. Again, another off-stream situation where it'd be better to use somewhere where we already pay out.
Well, I mean, the stream is we do own the stream, don't we?
One would hope so.
Steve, is everyone happy with that? That Steve will he will contact the police station with the outline of what we're looking for as one of our options, and it's polite, obviously, that we speak to Elaine or someone about it at the stream. And I don't see anything wrong with sounding out Swansea City Council about that unused building at the bowling green. Is that everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jay, I was going to suggest that when you and I meet Elaine, we bring it up as part of our discussions.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Go on to progress reports for projects currently under consideration. I know they're not listed, but we know what they are. Obviously, the stream, and this is to do also with the budget, isn't it? Budget for 2021. Budget for 21-22. What I was going to suggest is that if we can check that the architects will be able to work very, very quickly on ideas to enhance your stream. As I said previously, this is a facility we own lock, stock and barrel. There is a great deal of uncertainty about how much money we're going to be able to spend this year on either Underhill or the skate park. Probably not very much. So we're going to have, again, a big carryover from the budget. That we do look at setting aside some money to actually start doing some improvements to the Ostream. One obvious way where it could increase its income is to improve the catering facilities and have licensed or facilities to still sell alcohol there. And that would presumably be done at the side where the existing kitchen is. So I think it would be useful to put some money into the budget for development of the stream in the 21-22 financial year, because at least we know we're better go ahead with things there. We're not contingent upon others. And we're not contingent on quite a lot of other variables. Any suggestions, responses?
Yeah, I think it's money well spent. It's something in the heart of the village. It's I think obviously once we've got these architectural drawings done, we'll have a bit more of a steer, and we've got Ben's reply. So maybe we could discuss it in a bit more detail at the next premises meeting, unless we have to put it forward now, in which case I don't know, we'd be too accurate, would we? But there's a long list of maintenance stuff that needs doing, but it's whether we do those things if we're planning on knocking it about, so maybe it's best to just keep a bit of dry powder. You can always spend money on that building no matter what we're doing.
Yes, I agree. So that as I said earlier, there's not a lot of point in doing a lot of that maintenance, which they say is not critical, when a lot of it in rooms that we've got common sense ideas that those rooms would be changed, maybe knocked down and expanded, etc. So it's just getting a timescale that I wouldn't want the Ostream to not be eligible for any capital development funds in 21-22. Ian, you wanted to say something?
Suggestion of, come forward with a suggestion of the money, not just some money that doesn't really actually achieve anything. I mean, what do you see as being the amount of money that we will need to spend on the Ostream for next year?
100,000 minimum.
If we're going to put a recommendation in, we've got to have a sensible figure.
Right. What I would like to do is do a little bit more research on things that could be done which wouldn't affect the essential structure of the hall as it is now, with the main hall with the new roof as it is. But looking at the peripheral buildings, the report does mention that the flat roof above the pottery room and the art room is getting near the end of its life. Certainly that was an area I think we all were much in agreement that that would become a 2-story area in some ways, so we could have our offices above that. So we could probably get a relatively quick estimate from architects about how much that type of work would cost. When have we got to do the budget in detail by, Steve? Next, we haven't got another meeting, have we? Or we have a special budget meeting in January, will we?
Well, Paul's original timetable was December meeting of council, which is next Tuesday. That's clearly not going to happen, so it will be the January meeting of council. But ideally, he would want the main details in now. Every other committee's been doing it for now. Obviously, there's some caveats with all of them, but so I would put something in today, and then amend it later if necessary.
I thought we had a list of budget items at the previous meetings. I know we're only just become a full committee, but it was things. Some of the things that were currently in the economic well-being in terms of the stream and other stuff. So we definitely put in a 30,000 for architects, didn't we? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at something that Paul produced, a sort of rough survey. Yeah, Ostream development costs, move to premises, potential 30k architect's fees. So yeah,
right.
That ties in with what you're saying.
And do we need to put a caveat as to whether else for the e-cargo then for the bike store? Was that 3k?
No, you don't need. It won't cost you anything. The money will come from environmental. We were merely being polite and asking if you would be happy for us to cite it at the Ostream in terms of using that space on the Ostream outside area. There is no cost to premises at all.
Wouldn't it be more logical then that the money from environment for the premises part of it would be transferred to premises?
No.
Why not?
It's all in one budget, and that's perfectly simple and straightforward.
Your opinion, that's not a fact.
Why do we start splitting it up?
Because what's the point of having terms of reference for a premises committee, which you wrote and we amended slightly during the premises committee, and then not taking any notice of them?
We are taking notice. We're running it past you to say this is what we would like to do with the premises, but it's an environmental project, and there's no logical reason why we should start splitting up and random bits in different pots. Why not? We've got a pot there. We've done the costings. Why not leave it there?
I think
we've got it all in our budget, and our budget has gone in.
I think Ian is trying to come in.
Yes, Ian.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, it's only going to come from environment can only do it because they haven't been spending any money from their budget, and that's because it's from the sort of. It's from the.
Do not interrupt, Carrie. You know I have no.
It's so much of the money has been. So much of the money has been wired from the Mumbles and Bloom, etc. So it's a means to an end to try and spend the money, in my view. However, to come to the point, Chair, I support you with the Ostream. We entered into negotiations to acquire the Ostream. There was great play made. Oh, it's going to be the hub, and it's going to be we're going to do it up, we're going to make changes, and yet there seems to be a certain reticence that nobody wants to budget any monies for it. You know, that's what I can't understand. As far as I'm concerned, we should be budgeting for the Austrian. You know, when we talk about this this store, that's taken up half the meeting. I think that's superfluous, that business with a store, because you don't even know if there is going to be such a thing as an e-cargo bike buzzing around the village. So let's focus on the important things. You know, the Austrian is for the community. It's a big project and money should be set aside for it instead of it being flittered on these cameo projects.
Okay, thank you for that. I would like then to propose, you've spoken enough on this, Carrie, and I'm not accepting your further intervention.
This is a point
No,
of
your
clarification.
You've had three points of
useful.
order. I'm not suggesting
This
that
is
the
a point of, I think Steve
Oh.
will tell you that you can come back with a point of clarification.
Yes, once. The one you said you come back once. You come back about 5 times every time.
I'm trying to help you here in terms of what money you need to allocate. So I suggest you that if we are planning to put a second story on the top of that initial single-story building, there has been no excavations done to ascertain whether the foundations are sufficient. Therefore, anything we had to do would involve, first of all, actually getting someone in to dig down and assess the strength of the foundations. If they are insufficient, then the whole building would have to be knocked down, new foundations put in, and a new 2-story building put there.
No, it's not the case at all. It can be supported by
yes,
steel.
It is the case. That's what the quantity surveyor said.
There is 30,000 in the budget already for next year for things like that. That's exactly what it's there for.
That's exactly what the architects will tell us. If we say that we would like to...
Well, the architect would.
Yes, he would. The architect would be in charge of people. Everything we've done, where the tens of thousands we've spent with MCA, have got the architects have recommended somebody to do this, to look at grounds, so they would manage that for us. And we certainly wouldn't have to knock down the whole building. We'd have to knock down the existing art room. I still think I would like to put some money in for whatever the architects come up with fairly quickly. We will have an opportunity, which we might not have with other projects, to actually get something done. So I'm going to suggest 100,000 and we can vote on it. So a proposal is that for our budget for 2021-22, we've got 30,000 in for the architects and related people to look at what could be done at the Austrian, and that we look at it being developed in a way that some of the work could be started on adjuncts to the existing main hall of the roof, which has recently had a lot of money spent on it and passes all inspection. Therefore, the caveat is that if it is possible to do work during 2021-22, which I think, given my experience of working on a lot of community recreation provisions, it would be that we allocate 100,000 with that, which is a small amount compared to what we're allocating. This is a facility used by everybody from all ages, etc., and is in the centre of what is known as Mumbles. So rather than go around the houses arguing about it, let's put it to the vote that we include that in the budget.
I think we should probably debate it a little bit rather than going straight into the vote, personally.
Well,
Steve
had a point, yeah.
No, sorry, Chair, it was only a thought. Rather than say it's capital development for Austrian, there could be a scenario where you can't develop Austrian, but for perhaps something's happened and the council have taken over the Bowls Pavilion and you want to do a bit of work there. If you're discussing it, could it be the item capital development of MCC premises or something like that to allow that flexibility.
Well, yes, we could. There's always via between budgets. I mean, I feel there's going to be so much unspent money on these other projects. We have the ability to via. So what you're suggesting is we put in £100,000 for capital development for projects under the consideration of the premises committee. Then,
yeah.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Will, quick point.
Yeah, quick point. 100 grand. Yeah, I'm happy with that because I think that would, you know, ultimately mean that money would be spent on something worthwhile, whether that be the Bowls Green or the Ostream or some bit of infrastructure that we have an interest in. However, I don't really, you know, I suppose this is for a later date, but I don't think it's the right time to be putting up the precept. There's a lot of people losing their jobs, and you know, a lot of stretches on some families' incomes and things. So
yes, I don't wish at all to put up the precept, but all the committees, and we have only recently become a full committee, are entitled to put their bids in, and then full council. I've sat at many budget meetings in the past where budget a request of, you know, I think our own budget one year was 800,000. We got it down to 500,000 because we cut out the things that we thought weren't realistically achievable in that year. I mean, I'm looking at our current budget. Community and social wellbeing has £390,000 in it. I don't think very much of that has been spent.
Yeah, Tim, what I'm trying to say, I'm fully in support of it. You know, it's much better money. This is a much better use of money than many projects that I personally think are in our budget. But I don't think it's enough to achieve what you're looking to achieve. But I will support it because I think it's money well spent. But I think it probably, if anything, needs to be more. But I'm not qualified to make that amount, so I can't. But I'm happy to support it.
Okay. Pip, please.
Tim, can I ask, just for my own clarification, with the 100,000, that would be almost a contingency, would it, or a money set aside for appropriate projects within that particular budget year?
That's very appropriate wording, Pip. Yes.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm basing a lot of mine on work I've done. I mean, I did a full plan for a new clubhouse, changing rooms, and God knows what for Port Talbot, which we got funding for from the FAW and UEFA. And, you know, the type of figures I'm talking about, which are from the last 3 years, I think are reasonable to develop certainly that either that corner area there and or the kitchen area. But obviously, we need expert advice on the practicalities of that. I mean, I would rather put more money in, but if we put more money in, then we've got to have more information by the time we try and argue this at the full budget meeting.
So the money is just effectively there. So that there's at a later date, say in April next year, we decide that we need to do project X, we could draw from that money.
We can always via between projects, can't we? I mean, we've put 200,000 and 300,000 in for Underhill. I was the one who started that, you know, ever since 2017. And, you know, all that's been drawn down is architects' fees, surveyors' fees and things like that. So I think I don't think it would be remiss of us not to put any money in and hopefully bear to use that, particularly if there is slack in other projects. If there's slack in other projects, we could request Parliament to get more done, as Will is saying. He thinks more might be. Shall we have a vote on it? Otherwise we go all the way around. So we put in the words that Steve was suggesting and reiterated by Pip, is that we set aside 100,000 for appropriate capital developments commissioned through the premises committee. All right, a vote on that then. Those in favour? That's 5. Those against? Okay. Thank you. Right, the next facility is Underhill. Underhill, I think, Steve, you're au fait with what's happening there in terms of a loan application has been made Do we know anything about the results of that, or when the results are going to come in?
Well, it was made only this week.
Oh, right, okay. It's only update, isn't it?
We expect within 21 days.
All this agenda item is progress report, isn't it? So we've got a progress report on that. The Langland Bay Tennis Courts progress report on that.
They've been built and they're being painted in the spring.
Right.
And
Okay. Are we going to have some kind of official reopening? I presume we are.
We are. There'll be a big reopening. The committee of the community and social wellbeing committee decided not to put anything in the budget for next year for courts 3 or 4 because of the uncertainty about the situation.
Right. Ian?
Well, I was just supporting my head actually, but I will say something that I've got the opportunity. I'm surprised to hear that community have changed their view on the Langland tennis courts, because I did sit in on a meeting at which point they were quite prepared to support the the refurbishing of court number 3. And you're now saying, Clark, that that's not the case. Is that so?
Yeah, I'm saying in their budget proposal, they've not put aside any money to do that.
Yeah. Any other information with regards to what they're putting it in for? What about the West Cross play area? Is that going in?
I think, yeah, that's one of the projects that they wanted to put in.
And that was about 50,000, was it?
As you know, the ultimate decision is council as a whole. So
yeah. No. I'm sorry. It's just that it's news to me, this one. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the committee felt, Ian, not myself.
Okay, well, yeah.
Sorry, Chair. I think the committee, not myself, but the rest of the committee just felt that because Swansea Council haven't given us an answer on the 4th court, that they didn't want to see money just sitting in the bank for a year. So we have to get an answer off Swansea. I, in my city council role, have been pressing that as much as I can. I got a meeting with a leader in a week about it. So, but yeah, it's been on the market for 6 weeks now, so we should know pretty soon what they're planning to do with it in 2 or 3 months. We should know who's going to build what on it, or who knows what they roughly want to build on it. Obviously, planning takes longer and stuff. Steve, one thing I just wanted to ask you to chase up, Roger Mackay on the wall. You could just ask him to, when he's scheduled it in.
yeah, I've got a meeting about another matter with our consultants. So I will ask them tomorrow to chase that.
Okay, Pip.
Yeah, can I just ask Steve as well? Any progress on the signage showing that we've actually done the tennis courts? MCC.
Yeah, there's a banner being designed, and as soon as that's designed, I'll send it round to everyone for their comments.
Okay. Do you want me to chase that, or are you okay with that?
Claire's on to it, so yeah.
Okay.
So I think the wording was only decided fairly recently. So
okay.
Give SA1 a chance on that one.
Yeah.
Is there?
Sorry.
Thanks, Pip. Is there any point in us including this in something of this developing this court in the premises budget then, as it is a premise, it's a physical facility? Or would that come out of the money that we're... How much did it cost to do those 2 courts each? What was
almost 100,000, including the wall.
The wall, yeah, but there wouldn't need to be a wall this time. The cost for doing 1 court should be about 30 grand, according to my sports council.
The wall is still an issue further down as well. So you've got the 2 courts, the fencing, and the wall. It's you're looking at pretty much. I think exactly the same again. Which
okay.
Is what,
But we're not in a position to know whether we're even going to be allowed to have management of that facility. So I suppose it would be premature to look at a cost.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
suppose so. I mean, I can stress this to the leader, but I have already to Robert Francis Davis 100 times, and just like talking to a brick wall.
Hmm.
No, it's a limestone wall, I think.
A sense of humour at last. Great. Thank you for that, Ian. Right. So the only other, as far as I know, the only other progress report on projects currently under consideration is the skate park. We've had a detailed report. We've had a business plan, which Pip and Gary have done. Thank you for that. And the other thing is knowing, was there any truth in the rumour that the City Council were considering this today? And have we got an update on that? No update.
There was a meeting today on the MCC diary there. What was that?
Steve, you were doing a meeting at 5 o'clock, weren't you?
I was, sorry, I thought Sarah was here. Is she? She went
Sarah's
to
gone.
the meeting. Oh, she's gone. Okay.
Pam's here.
Sarah's here, yeah. Sarah, any news on the meeting today and how the council are?
Well,
Viewing-
it was basically just a polite way of keeping us up to date about how things are going along. Nothing really came out of it that is worth spreading.
Right, okay.
When
Not
does
a
it go into cabinet?
Was it January, Pam? Sometime? Yes,
I'm coming
January.
Has it
It's a
gone
month-
public yet?
Oh,
Has the
no.
information gone public yet?
Oh, that
No.
would only go once, say, approved planning permission, then I'll have to do the normal notices, won't they?
I can't understand what's going on there.
Okay, thanks for that then. So that was the concluding item, I think. We've still, the bowling green, Steve, sorry, they've still not given you an answer, have they?
No, I was hoping to catch up with Lewis Hines today, but he left the meeting early, so I'll chase him tomorrow.
That's another action point then to keep chasing on that. Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for your attendance.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The next
Thank you.
meeting will be the 4th Tuesday of January, I presume. But Steve could juggle it if that clashes with another meeting, yes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.